This is just a quick demo of the Code313 app. This is a calculator for B313, and besides just calculations, it's just you could also just use it as a verification or a second opinion. Anyway, when you launch the app, this is what you'll see. There's only one thing you have to do on the home screen, and that is to type in a thickness. Let's go with 1/2 inch pipe for this. And it'll work if you don't put the 0 point, but it looks much easier. It's much easier to read the thicknesses on the on the other screens if you do. You see there's various buttons here for different discontinuities or requirements for a weld. And this is for radiography, not visual or anything else. Cracks and lack of fusion, you'll see it's subdivided by normal service, severe cyclic, category D, and all of these are subdivided. There's nothing allowed in those type of welds. In category D girth and meter groove welds, you are allowed in cracks, none, but in lack of fusion, you are allowed 1.5 inches by 6 inches. That's an example. Incomplete penetration, you'll see here's another one. It's broken into normal service, category D and M. It's divided by girth, meter groove, or branch connections, or longitudinal welds. And there's different requirements for your cyclic. You'll see these are broken down. The internal porosity is pretty large. It has a relevant indication, and those aren't rounded off. I just left them display their full decimal range. You see there's two major subdivisions, severe cyclic conditions and normal service. The main two in each one is the first two numbers, the maximum size of a random indication or maximum size of an isolated, and that's, you know, the wall thickness divided by 3 or wall thickness divided by 4. There are some specialty cases where you have aligned indications of the maximum sum of the diameters, and you have that for both of those. The maximum group length of a line, that's from figure 4.2, appendix 4, section 8, blah, blah, blah. All that's spelled out for you, and then there's also some rules for cluster lengths, but by and large, the ones you're looking at most frequently are the random size and the isolated size for severe cyclic or normal service. You'll see a little red line pop up in this blank space under relevant indication if you're under 125 wall thickness, and that's a little note about you can only have 12 relevant indications. In fact, let's go show that. You'll see this pops up now. If the weld's under 125, a maximum of 12 relevant indications and a 6-inch length of weld. You notice when you're in thinner too, the severe cyclic and normal service conditions are the same. As the weld gets thicker, they change. Let's go back to our 500. Slag is divided by normal service, severe cyclic. The length, the width, and cumulative length, those are pretty straightforward. Just does the math for you, so you don't have to do it. Undercutting, it has, subdivided by normal service, severe cyclic, and category D, and these are more my interpretation for a second opinion. Use it as that. I don't guarantee any of this. That's my opinion. Same thing here is an interpretation, my opinion on how do you do the concave root. IQI is another one like the slag and the porosity. It has a lot of numbers. Now look, there's there's something you need to pay attention to here. And these may confuse people a little bit, but there's welds without, there's 3 main categories. Is welds without any reinforcement, welds reinforced on just one side, or welds reinforced on 2 sides. Now in my opinion, the way matter of fact, the code allows a maximum amount of reinforcement and internal protrusion. My interpretation of that is there are 2 different things, and that correlates with other sections of the code, like section 1 and B313, where they specifically state that it's only on the external reinforcement, not protrusion. It doesn't count. But it doesn't matter what my opinion is. That's my opinion. That's how I do it. The calculator itself doesn't take an opinion. It has all 3. Whether it's and some welds are actually welded from both sides of the weld. 99% of the time in B313 code and the average butt weld you're shooting in the real world, you're generally looking at that second subcategory here, welds reinforced on one side, but that's up to you. The danger here is these numbers are all done on the maximum allowable by code. Now sometimes that's just barely over the limit to go to the next size up in penetrometer or IQI. Do the math yourself. Just use these for a second opinion. Keep in mind, you know, the code doesn't say you can always just automatically use the maximum allowable. It says you're supposed to estimate the reinforcement. Now we can't do that in here, so this will give you a bracket, you know, at the maximum with one side reinforcement, maximum if it was reinforced on two sides, and without any, and you can figure out which one you want to use for your purposes. You know, if you don't want to do that, you can calculate every one manually. These are just for a second opinion, double checking yourself. You'll see in each one it has a source side hole, source side wire number, that's the essential wire. It has a source side wire set, that's the A, B, C, or D of the ASTM set number, so you know which one automatically. This minimum number of wires is not one you see in the code, but you know that essential wire, like the number 7 in this case, that means that in that B set you would have to be able to see there. If you couldn't count 5 wires on the film, you wouldn't be looking at the proper wire. You know, if there's 6 wires in the set, what that's saying is you have to be able to see at least 5 of those to be the proper, you know, this number 7 here. Film side hole, 15. Film side wire, 6. In that case, that 6 is like on the divide line between the A and B, so you could have either A or B wire set. If it was an A, you could only have 1. If it was a B, you'd have to see all 6 of them before it would be legal, because that's the smallest wire on that set. If you don't understand that, I suggest you go look in section 5 and understand the difference in the A, B, C, and D wire sets. And again, all that information is calculated on the next 2 sections for reinforced on one side or reinforced on 2 sides. It's just using the extra math. At the bottom here, it does show you the maximum protrusion or reinforcement, which is based on the actual wall thickness you typed in on the home screen. For that 1/2 inch, it's allowed up to 0.125. So these are good brackets to help you. Remember, the danger here is don't just automatically presume every weld's always going to that maximum. Sometimes that's just barely over that maximum limit, and if you don't have much reinforcement, you know, maybe you shouldn't be doing that. These are here just, you know, I debated even putting this in here, but I figured in the long run it was better just to let you have more information to compare to what you're actually doing in the field than not to have the information. But you know, I was worried about people doing that. Look, on that IQI too, if you go up above 4 inches, it won't calculate them anymore. And you see, you just can type in the various thicknesses you want, and these numbers are calculated on the fly as you touch each button. You see, these IQIs are going to be different now than they were before. And if I went all the way up to 1.5, you see these numbers are going to be different again. It's much larger penetrometers. Processing numbers are going to be different, and the slag numbers are going to be quite a bit different. And that's basically all there is. You just type in the thickness and you hit each one. I do not make any guarantees of this. It's very complex. There's hundreds and hundreds of lines of code. Use it at your own risk. Just use it as a second opinion. Imagine like somebody over your shoulder giving you a second opinion. And this does not replace the code. This doesn't have the porosity chart you have to look at. This doesn't include any of the rules, the what ifs, the how to's, the notes like in B31 in the table with all the acceptance criteria. There's a lot of notes and rules and sub notes and footnotes. None of that's included here, and it's not intended to be. It's just like a second opinion and a calculator so that you can give you some, you know, back up the numbers that you're calculating yourself. It's just for that. It does not alleviate, and it does not try to replace the code.